I have a recent development.
What's that?
Something I just realized.
What did you do?
All girls think they're good at giving head. All of them.
They do? I know so many girls that don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
I'm
teach.
so good at sucking dicks, and I'm like, okay. I've heard it so many times, and I'm like, and then it just hasn't panned out.
So I teach blowjob 101 classes.
And you can do the sword swallowing thing where you like
I can
release the thing.
But
where
that is not a good. That is not what a good blowjob entails. And I'm not saying this to say that I'm good at it. I'm saying that the women that come to that class, a lot of them are saying, I'm terrified of it. I'm not good at it. I've met women in their 40s who have never sucked a dick because they're just scared because don't think they'll be good at it.
Oh, man, I feel like you put it off that long, you're probably not good at it.
Well, you're not because you have no skills. You never practiced. But then they come to a class and the way I teach, there's not one way to suck a dick because all dicks are different in what they like. Yeah. So the only thing that I say is the universal thing that you can apply is enthusiasm. Show up authentically excited to be present for what you're doing when you're pleasuring someone else. Because if you're literally waiting for it to be over or regarding it as a job, they're going to pick up on it. But all the technique of the way you're going to touch a cock, it's going to be different per person. Like I know some people that love just slower than slow and slower than that, which we talk about all the time. That's how they want their blowjobs. And I know some people that want it like fast and hard. And so like as long as you show up present and ask questions,
have
like
a lubricated
check
mouth.
in, moisture and lubrication.
Keep a mouth real nice and dry for you.
Watch out for your teeth, and then also show up enthusiastic. Then like great blowjob.
Do you feel like in the sex courses you teach and the workshops and people that you work with, that enthusiasm, is that like the number one, like the first thing, like just be genuinely excited to be here?
Well, the number one thing, and we say this on the podcast often too, is presence. It's are you present for anything, whether it's a conversation about sex, or when someone's touching you, or when you're touching someone else. Are you even here? Or are you in your stories in your head and your insecurities of like, what do I look like? What do I smell like? And am I going to come? And what do they think about? Maybe do they like me? What am I going to have for breakfast tomorrow? All that shit. That makes
so
it
weird. Why, like, it's so funny.
It's the monkey mind.
You get pulled out of the coolest thing that we get to do that's free anyways.
It's what it does though. And I mean, I'm guilty of it. April, I mean, you have that comes up for you.
Oh yeah, I'm a super heady person.
Yeah. We have to work to stay in our bodies. Yeah. And that's just part of it. That's why sex connected.
I have to keep my eyes closed most of the time during sex because and blowjobs and all of it, because I have to focus on like, being in my body and the sensations that are happening all around me.
Otherwise the stories come up.
Otherwise the stories. I'm like, oh wait, did he not shave today? Did I shave today?
Is he judging me?
I was like, oh wait, like, do I have too much hair in my butthole?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what it does. And so that's
the stuff that
we're talking about, like with sex that, good connected sex, because you can have good sex that's not connected. It depends what you're into, but connected sex is a meditation. It is a single pointed focus on the touch or the breath or the sensations or the other person's movement or something. You're not all over the place, and you're certainly not just in your head and stories. And so I mean, you've meditated, Connor, right?
Yeah, once or twice.
Once or twice, right?
Yeah.
It's not the easiest task. I meditate often. I have a daily practice, and I have days where it's just so fucking hard to sit and just focus on my breath.
That's what's been happening to me in Shavasana and after yoga lately. I'm like, I had to leave the other day. I was like, I can't. I almost started crying. And I was like, I got to get out of Shavasana right now because I'm just so in my head. It was like all this stuff building up. And I was like, I need to get back into but meditation is hard in the same realm because
it's funny because it's hard and so easy.
But it's so easy. Yeah. It should be so easy.
All you're doing is sitting and focusing on one thing, whether it's your breath or your body, or maybe some visualizations, maybe doing some transcendental meditation. Yeah. Sex is the same thing. Someone's touching your nipples, they're touching your cock, they're touching your pussy, they're touching your neck, and you just focus on that. And that's it. But like, it's so hard.
It is so hard, but that's the funny thing about it is like you really just have to put the attention in one space, right? Mm-hmm. Like with meditation, the entry level meditation is focusing on your breath. Mm-hmm. So it's like just focus on this one thing, because you're gonna focus on something. If you try to focus on nothing, then your mind's gonna fucking bounce.
I mean, what's nothing? How do you focus on nothing?
Yeah, exactly. Then you focus on everything, right? Yeah. Nothing is everything. So the same thing is like knowing that you can just. This is when I started to have like mindful sex. Mm-hmm. Is knowing when someone was kissing me to just like put all my attention there, which came from meditation. Mm-hmm. It was meditation first, and then it is sex. And then same thing into like, I realized how not present I was during sex.
Yeah.
And like getting head and doing these different things. I would just like be
somewhere else.
I'd be thinking about what the next move was, what the next thing was, or if this was going to happen.
Or how am I going to get to orgasm town? You know, it's always like getting to the destination.
The
for guys, it's like, how do I not come
yeah,
come
there's the opposite. How do I not go to orgasm town? Yeah.
It's like,
It's so true.
Yeah.
I feel like my partner is guilty of that. He's 50 years old. I'm like, hey, dude, just focus on now. It doesn't matter about, it's the journey. It's not the destination. Because he tries to think about other things so he won't come fast.
Oh, to try to postpone it.
To postpone.
I don't feel like thinking of other things. I think it actually makes it worse.
It does, because I tune into it too. I'm like, yo, are you not with me right now? Like, are we not on the same?
Well, I don't think
I'm riding you right now. I need to fucking be here at least.
The tool isn't to think about like baseball or your grandma. You know, the tool. This is what like society teaches us, but the tool is
society's the worst sex educator.
It's the worst.
Porn and society.
Thank you, society and porn. Educators. But you know, the tool is to focus on breath. You know, to just hone in on breath, and then slow the breath. Take deep, slow breaths, and slow the movement. Like that's all you need to do. You don't need to think about grandma. You can just literally take slow, deep breaths and slow down your movement, or maybe even just stop altogether what you're doing. Just take a pause. Like my pussy loves when there's a pause and we're not even moving, but I still have a cock inside of me or fingers or something.
Oh,
and
it's the best. Actually.
It's amazing.
I would love that. That's the best way to. That's the best way to put it off.
But you never see that in porn, do you? They're never like, let's just stop for a minute.
That's the funny thing is, I watched a little bit of porn when I was young and intermittently in life, but it's not a part of my life. I can actively say like porn is not a part of my life.
So if you masturbate, you don't use porn, you just use your mind.
Straight up imagination. Nice. And I didn't realize that I just essentially had a superpower. I didn't know that was like a challenging thing for people to do because I've been doing it my whole life, you know, from junior high on. And I just never really like, maybe a few times would like watch some like Cinemax thing at home when I was a kid, like, you know. It just never was a thing for me.
Don't you get turned on at certain times when you're watching, like, I don't know, like the Fatal Attraction sex scene when they're on like the stove in the kitchen or something like that, where it's not, it's like that voyeur.
Yeah.
It's like that voyeuristic kind of that's almost hotter sometimes than the full on pornography that you see.
Like, porn is so hard
YouTube,
to find. Like, I like porn that's like homemade porn, right? That's what's well done, but it's like real
amateur
people.
porn,
real.
Yeah, like real people. Because like if this guy with like a barbed wire tattoo on his arm that's like grunting at this chick and like
not
she's
even
choking on his
at
dick. It's like I guess that's cool. Like I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
You can see through it.
It's all staged.
And I think it's the same reason like strip clubs, or we were talking about this earlier, but like strip clubs are really touchy because I think I just like empathize with the people that are in that situation, and it takes me completely out of just being able to objectify.
Oh, I try to get real with the stripper. I try to get like, I was like, are these? I was getting a lap dance because someone paid for me to get a lap dance. This is a few weeks ago at the Condor in San Francisco, which is like the oldest strip club in San Francisco. It's all vintage, and I was talking to the stripper while she was telling me like, so hey, do you have like life goals? Like, is this what you want to do? And my partner was like, don't get fucking deep with this stripper right now.
Dude, I love getting deep with the strippers.
I want to know if this is her life goal.
What did she say?
She was like, what? Like looking at me like I was crazy. She's like, I'm going to school eventually. I was like, oh, you're going to school eventually. That's
Chippy.
That's
threw her off. I threw her off her game.
She was in stripper mode.
But I liked her. I thought she had good energy, and I wanted to talk to her. And I wasn't talking down to her. I was actually trying to figure out.
I appreciate that because you're treating her like a real human.
Yeah, and I'm like, who are you? I always talk to the strippers. Like in Amsterdam when we were getting lap dances in Amsterdam.
Yeah, they're humans. They're not
humans.
Just...
I was like, what's up, girl? How you doing? You have a beautiful ass. Like, fuck yeah. Continue on.
Proceed with your day. Take that compliment with you. This is fantastic. No, and strip clubs are funny like that. That's how I feel about porn too. But connecting with strippers is a really funny thing to do.
I know. I probably shouldn't go deep with strippers.
I always do it, and I always do it. I'm just like,
why did I do that?
God, I know so much about her now. Yeah. I actually have a stripper like hitting me up for drugs randomly now, and
God.
She just was asking me all these questions, and she's like, "Can I have your number?" And I was like, just being nice. And this girl, I'm like, what
you gave your number to a stripper though. That
was
just
a mistake.
On paper that doesn't sound good.
It just wasn't. I didn't know what to do. She kind of cornered me, and I was like,
she could have cornered me.
I was like in this booth, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, please leave. I can't be mean to people.
Well,
it was the weirdest thing.
Change your number now.
I know. I'm not gonna change my number. I think I just ignored her enough times that it's fine. But it was a very weird experience. I'm like, I don't even go to strip clubs very often.
What kind of drugs does she want?
She wanted mushrooms or something.
Oh, well, that's kind of a great.
I think she overheard a conversation and she was like, "Oh, hey, can you like?"
How do I get some of those?
She's like, "We want to party," and I was like,
"How do you feel about sex on mushrooms?"
How do I feel about sex on mushrooms? It depends.
On how much you take?
Yeah, it depends on your experience level. Like it's fun at the end of a mushroom kind of experience if it was really good. But if you're in the middle of it, if you don't have the wherewithal to kind of bring yourself back, like I was out with some friends at a kind of like a deep house place. This is a few weeks ago. And I didn't really want to be there, but I was there. I just wanted to see everybody. I hadn't seen everybody in a long time. And I was like, I'm going to eat too much mushroom so I can go home. Because I can't lie about it. I was like, I'm just going to eat like a quarter of this mushroom chocolate bar. And then I'm going to like...
I'm too high. I got to go home now.
So I remember I was sitting down. I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, it may not be that much. Like chocolate bars are kind of unpredictable. But regardless, I can handle myself with mushrooms. And I remember sitting down in the corner. I closed my eyes. And I had almost like a DMT vision, where you like... go like 3 layers behind your actual head. It's like, and I was like, in my back, like it was so funny. And I was like, man, if you didn't know what you were doing, I started to have like real empathy for people who would do that and not know what the fuck they were getting themselves into.
Oh God.
And then be like, you would be tripping
terrified,
the fuck out. And I was like, okay, I'm going home. So if you're in a situation with somebody who doesn't know how to handle themselves, if shit gets a little bit weird, especially because mushrooms open you up to all the energy and it's a whole different ball game.
I have to be in nature for mushrooms a lot of times. It's more helpful for me.
Really?
Although I was just in Barcelona and ate some mushrooms and went touring the city, and it was pretty fucking cool. Like the Gaudi is everywhere all over Barcelona, and that was magical, but was not sexual.
Yeah. What do you think about mushrooms and sex?
I've had good and I've had bad, but mostly good. I've had bad because I'll be like in my head, like about like thinking, I don't know, about so many different things that are going, like the rags that I'm wearing and my clothes that I'm taking off. I'm like, why do we wear these things? Why? These things make no sense. And it's like, raw.
This prison of my
clothing.
It's like leg prisons are out of control.
That's why you see people like taking their clothes off on psychedelics all over the
I know.
Fuck these things.
I always get down to that. No matter what psychedelic I'm on, I'm always like, oh, it comes back to the rags I'm wearing and why.
Oh, yeah. I feel that, but I feel that all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
what does that mean?
I think the substance enhanced sex that I've had,
ketamine,
is ketamine, and it's very interesting because it was I had it multiple times with that where it felt I was like having sex with my partner at the time and said, "Do you feel like God's here right now?" And while we're fucking, I'm on top of him, and he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Are we fucking for God or are we God fucking?" And we didn't really know. We just kept going with it. It was fucking amazing.
I've had some next level shit.
Multiple experiences like that.
Yeah, it's
which is funny because it's a disassociative, so you should actually not be very present for what's
you're in the land between.
I don't have a lot of experience with ketamine at all. Just one.
We could change that
right now.
I mean, probably.
Well, we don't have ketamine. We have chocolate.
Damn it.
And lots of wine.
It's funny when you're like, mushrooms are really fun. LSD is like this too, where if you're having sex on it and you close your eyes, your closed-eyed visuals are so different and bright and vivid. And I don't know, I would not have casual sex on any psychedelic though, because you end up like you don't know what kind of darkness somebody's fucking.
I mean, I just also don't recommend casual sex on. It's just so dangerous, especially as a man for you, like to go have casual sex with something where people are leaving their natural states, like with the Me Too movement. It's just, it's too questionable with like consent stuff, to have sex with someone that you're already in a pre-negotiated situation and then we can take substances to enhance the experience, fine, because it's pre-negotiated, but casually it's too risky out there right now. I mean, I'm all down with the Me Too movement, and I'm feeling for the women. Like right now, I just drank ayahuasca 2 weeks ago and just like was so angry and disappointed at men. I love men. I just love men so much, but I was so angry and disappointed at men or the masculine in general for just wanting to like rape and pillage and dominate and like all so that they can feel like worthy and strong and because they haven't dealt with their own fucking wounding.
But that's what we've heard from so many, like our Chinese doctor acupuncturist that was just on the Shameless Sex Podcast.
She's saying that we're two in our masculine.
We're two, as a global entity. We're two in our masculine. Everyone needs to get in touch with their feminine, their yin energy.
I was feeling that,
which is true. I've been feeling that too. I'm like, I want to wear a dress, and you were saying I want to wear a dress.
Yeah,
I'm like,
but
damn it.
be more in our feminine. And the flip side of it is, I guess it's not the flip side, but like the other side of the coin would be that it's just hard for the masculine too, because there's this idea you don't want to be too feminine. You don't want to be too masculine. So you got to figure out somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be the creepy guy. You don't want to be the rapey guy. You don't want to be the too like soft feminine guy. And it's not safe for you to be vulnerable and show your emotions or work through your emotions. So you're just carrying a whole bunch of anger, and anger is the only emotion that's safe for you to go through. So that's all that you're putting out there in the world. And this isn't all men. I know plenty of absolutely wonderful men and that aren't this. But that's, I don't even remember how I got on this tangent. But
no, this is great. It's fantastic. Keep going.
Well, it's like the Me Too movement and substances. So I have, while I'm angry, I'm not more so disappointed in the masculine. I love men, by the way. I'm actually what I call painfully straight. I only sleep with men. And I love them. I've loved men since I was like 2 years old and I wanted a boyfriend. And I'm disappointed in the masculine in their, I'm just like, even though I know society doesn't make it easy for them to step further into their feminine and to be more loving and vulnerable, I'm still like, get it fucking together. And that, I mean, that softness provides this like outlet to be able to just, I don't know, just to be like more real, more connected, but they're just like, they're not in it. They're just not in it. So
this message brought to you by drugs.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I always say when I'm on. This message brought to you by drugs.
It was important because I will also state that I have daddy issues. And the basis of this was I saw my dad a week before, and I was seeing him and how I realized in this ceremony, it's like, oh my God, anger is the only thing keeping him alive. If you took anger away, he'd have no passion for anything in life.
Yeah.
And so that's his fuel. And so then I have compassion for it. And so like the consent and the Me Too thing, I have compassion for men in that it's hard right now. Like all you have to do is have one woman or one human man, anyone, call you out and be like, hey, he touched me inappropriately. And you're fucked.
Do you feel like you've ever had a Me Too situation? I mean, honestly, like,
what do you mean?
Like,
what do you mean?
Either been Me Too'd or felt like maybe you did something at some point where
been Me Too. How would I have been Me Too'd?
I mean, men get Me Too'd.
Men get Me Too'd a lot.
I mean, I
might have Me Too'd someone or two.
It was definitely like I was super trashed in Mexico when I was like 20 and some girl like.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
took advantage of me, I guess, or whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
But to you, it's not really a big deal. I mean, but
I didn't love it, but it wasn't like I wasn't.
You weren't traumatized.
I'm not traumatized.
Right.
Like, it was just weird.
Your body
didn't
like numb out and shut down.
And the only reason I wanted to be there, I just had a girlfriend at the time, so it was like I felt bad. I just felt guilty.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like at the end of the day, it's like not that big of a deal.
So part of you kind of is saying that you
I didn't feel violated. I just felt like I guess it was super fucked up.
Yeah. Right.
I was 20 years old in Mexico. Like it's like not that big of a surprise.
Right.
Like no one's out there like, wow, I can't believe that happened to you.
Was it Cancun?
No, it was Riviera Maya.
Oh, okay. Well, at least that's
same.
Better than improvement.
It's highly intoxicated casual sex.
No, but there's definitely been some things. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, like I can see how there's definitely things I've done that could have been misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm genuinely not pushy with things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am sexually pretty aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my normal life, I'm like a big teddy bear, and that's the best thing for me to be. I'm a large man. Like I'm a big dude.
6'4", everyone.
Yeah. So it's like for me to be aggressive would be like too much.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like I kind of teeter on the other side where I'm a super chill guy. I don't really like you know. I've gotten in a lot of fights when I was younger, but it's like that's all silly shit. Like I just try to keep things pretty tame. But then sexually, like I am pretty aggressive.
So that's the counterbalance.
So it's weird when you have like a push back, and it's like you have to know someone really well, like almost to the point where at this point, and I really appreciate you saying that it's kind of hard for guys because at this point it's like the first time I sleep with someone, I will let them take the lead more than I normally would.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just like, let's see what let me feel you out first. Like, what are you into? Like, if I give you the control, like, how does that feel? Then I can start to match that versus just going.
I think
like,
that might be
Connor.
the best advice too for other folks that may be struggling because it is like a really interesting time all over the planet, especially in, let's say, Western first world cultures, which are dealing with this Me Too movement specifically. But like if you had to be and give adversarial advice to some another man your age of your stature, that would be a good way to
of my
maybe,
stature, yeah. But that's the thing. That's where it gets tricky, right? So if you look at this and it's guys stepping into their feminine, like I am very gifted in the fact that I'm a big masculine looking dude. So for me to step in my feminine, super easy. Now if I'm 5'8", 165 pounds, if I step into my feminine, I've now become a little bitch.
Yeah.
And that's not cool either. So it's like you go to places
hard.
like Encinitas, California, right? Love that place. Super nice. The guys there are the women and the women are the men. The women are the masculine there, and it's so clear to see it, and it makes me super uncomfortable because I just don't get it. It feels weird to me. But they've gone the other way where they've like hyper.
What's an example of that?
Well, they've glorified femininity in men.
Okay.
And so you get these like super soft dudes.
But are they having are the women loving, or the straight people, like, are the women loving it? Is it an issue? Like,
I don't know.
Because that's a thing in Japan, and I've heard of this where the men in Japan are cultured to be kind of hyper feminine, and there's like this big disconnect between the women and the men, and there aren't as many people like procreating and getting together. It's like this is a thing, and I heard this like 3 years ago, so I don't know if it's still a thing, but that could be an issue.
No, I mean, there's definitely, when you get a masculine man that walks into that environment, and just from this is what the girls say, it's like the women like salivate for it there.
They're like, oh, finally!
Like, oh my god.
I mean,
it's a lot. It's intense because the masculine wants a feminine and the feminine wants the masculine. It's like,
and it's not a gender-based thing too, right? Like this could be in between. This, everyone's different. Some people are, you have female body folks that are more masculine, and everyone has masculine and feminine in them. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to balance. Balance within ourselves. Like, of course, we could be more masculine, feminine, and vice versa, or maybe we don't identify with either. I know plenty of people that are like super gender fluid, and they're like, 1 minute I'm feminine, the next minute I'm masculine, and they use they and them pronouns. But I think in our romantic partnerships, there kind of always is it's a dance. You very rarely have two people that are like hyper feminine or hyper masculine. They're kind of like balancing that with each other in this way. And so if you have a lot of people that are all on like one end of the spectrum within a community, it kind of could be limiting in that sense.
Yeah.
So. And then we have a culture that makes it hard, so I feel that. I feel for the men. I'm disappointed in you guys. Get it fucking together. Like, this is what I think. This is what I came to, and I know I was on ayahuasca, and this is real because I still feel this way. So for men, even if you're the good man who has not Me Too'd someone, you haven't, tried to hurt Mother Earth, you're not someone that is hurting men, women, whatever, to try to validate yourself. Someone who has. A man, you have a brother, you have a son, you have a dad, you have an uncle, you have a friend. Someone who has. Speak up to them. Like, they're going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to us. And it's your job as their brother, even if you're not blood brother, to step up and inspire them to be better men. Tell them how it worked for you, what you've been through, how you fucked up, how you've stepped into your higher power, and inspire them. And so that's what I'm disappointed in. I like, even the good men in my life, I'm just like, I want to see more. I believe in, like, I'm an eternal optimist, and my glass is half full, and I'm like, why? This is bullshit. This is so stupid that this is how it's going.
Well, if you can step into your masculine too, so if you think about that as a man, if you can like truly step into your masculine, like create enough awareness of yourself to step into that, then it's a lot easier to step into your feminine.
Yeah.
Like you can, the more you step into one, the more you step into the other. It just takes context on both.
Totally.
But if you're kind of in denial of one, right? So if you're shamed, speaking of like the Shameless Sex Podcast, if you're like shamed for being hyper masculine, or masculinity is kind of villainized,
yeah,
then it kind of paints you into a corner.
Totally.
Well, it's like which way am I going to go? Because at the end of the day, like as a human being, as an animal, like I'm trying to procreate.
Yeah,
like we're trying to get laid.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's one thing
that's what it's doing.
I feel like with these guys and that have hella power and leverage that to get blowjobs for movie parts or whatever, which is really the I guess the start of this whole thing, or like the Bill Cosby type shit.
Yeah,
it's strange, but at some point we kind of like romanticize power and people bend to it a lot. Like, people will do a lot of things to move forward, and it's like, even Brian Callen, somebody I respect a ton, and the work that he does, and he's like, man, when I was getting started in this, like I would have done fucking anything for a part. Anything.
Yeah.
So you get to empathize with people who are like, oh well, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day.
Sell your
like
soul.
Marilyn Monroe joked about it. You know?
Yeah.
She signed the big movie deal where it's like, it's like her big break, and she said, that'll be the last dick that I have to suck for a part.
Wow, yeah.
I heard that. Now that may be hearsay, but I heard that and I was like, damn.
Comes from somewhere. Maybe it wasn't like a physical dick right then, but at some point she was like, whoa. But it's true. But that's what you have to ask yourself, which is what my underlying thoughts with the Me Too movement. I'm really proud of women for stepping forward
and not just women, but
not women, but folks, especially though in the film, speaking in the film industry, it's a lot of women that have come forth
who might worry about, am I going to get a part after I do this?
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of this has been consensual.
Like they agreed to it.
They agreed to it before because of just like the Marilyn Monroe quote, because of that part that they really thought would take their career to the next level. Yeah. So is it wrong or is it right?
The disagreement would be that coercion's not consensual. So if someone says,
this is super important.
I mean, that's the disagreement. You can say yes, but if someone's saying, hey, they say essentially you have no way out. They're like, you can either be broke and poor, or you can do this to actually have the life that you want.
But it's still a choice that you say.
There's a choice.
You're not bound. They're not putting you into slavery or sex trafficking.
But if the general industry is all operating that way, and they have no choice, other than to change industries. Change industries entirely.
Or don't get that part and move on and try to find something where you
go to the next studio where the other guy's doing it too. I mean, it's been all over the place. It's not just that one place. It's not just one dude doing it. I get what you're saying, that there's a choice.
Look, I've been Me Too'd into when I was 24 years old. I got offered a better position if I would go on the date with the VP. He was like, come on. And I was like, fuck you. Like, I'm out. I don't care about any of this. I'm bigger than this. And granted, I'm not in acting. It wasn't in acting, but I just think that there's a certain level
in business in general, as a woman, is like that.
It is. And I was young and I was like,
actually,
what?
Fucking A. I hadn't thought about this. I worked at a company that was women dominated at one point in time, and I fucked my manager. I did not want to.
There you go.
I was like, I don't want to. But what was I going to do?
She was coming on to you, and it was like,
because you're afraid you're going to lose your job.
Yeah. I was like, and she already didn't like me, but I think she just wanted to hate fuck me.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
You got Me Too, bro.
That's
Holy
Me Too.
shit, bro!
Welcome to the club. High five. Me too.
I mean, it don't matter. It was like fine, but that's the thing. I think this mentality difference. I'm like, I mean, it's whatever. Like, I'm of the mentality. It's like, especially when I'm single and I'm like out in like exploration phase. As long as I'm safe, it's like if I don't have a reason not to, I'll probably do it just for experience and a story.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't have all this trauma from it. I just like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, actually I remember the time and I was like, I can't really say no to this. Like literally walk into a bar at this place where everybody was kind of at, and she intercepted me before I even got to everybody, and she was like, let's go. And I was like, where? She goes, your place. I was like, but don't. She's like, no, let's go. And I was like, that was it. I didn't have a conversation. I was like, just at a bar down the road, and she's
like, this is basically just like a cum receptacle for me right now.
She's like, listen, here's the deal. Like,
okay.
Here's the deal. She's like, she didn't like me, but it was like I'm a big masculine dude that she has access to.
You're just the dick donor.
Yeah.
I am sometimes. I have been.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry for what?
See, he's okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's like,
if I was just the pussy donor, I'd be really upset about that. But there's just so many things that like we can't just say that it's consent and there's so many components, right? Like there's years and years of ancestral trauma. There's the fact that we, when I say we, April and I as feminine bodies are receivers who guaranteed so many of our ancestors have been raped.
Mm-hmm.
We have ancestral karma of rape in all of our families as women. It's just no way around it.
I'm Native American, so it's definitely
of course, yeah,
all up in there.
And we
got super raped. Next level rape.
There's that, and like even if you don't believe in ancestral karma, then there's also just the fact that like female bodies, we have to be a little more careful out there in the world. And there's just, and then, maybe we're a little more emotional than people who are masculine. And then you just take into account, not just us, anyone who has trauma, right? Like in the Me Too movement, any, actress who's claiming Me Too thing, they have trauma here. They might have some trauma in the past too, that makes it more susceptible for the trauma to be like more extreme. So there's so many components, and you can't just like narrow it down to this one concept, like why this happens and how we can fix it. Because you have to look at all of it, and it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
I think people need to work from their higher selves no matter what. And then
God, how do we teach
we
those
can
motherfuckers
transcend to
that?
Another level. I mean, that's the solution.
Maybe
all
we
of
could
them.
give them all some ayahuasca.
Yeah. Just
and
operate
then
from your highest self.
If the whole world drank some ayahuasca and finally started to like see through their shit.
I think everyone drinking ayahuasca would be a bad idea. I'm gonna go ahead on record and say that.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone's fully equipped for that. Yeah,
you do need to
I can
be
see
ready.
like Walmart people on ayahuasca would be terrible. It would be a lot to deal with. I don't know a shaman on the planet that can handle that. Just like you go like get like 10 random Walmart shoppers and just take them to the Amazon and see what happens. That would be a fucking dope documentary though.
That would be
Kyle Thierman.
funny.
Kyle Thierman, I got your next.
That's the real world of the real world right there. That's the actual real world. Let's see what happens. That's a social experiment I've ever heard.
Straight up old school, like
I'd
kidnapping
watch-
people from
I'd watch
Walmart,
that.
giving them jungle drugs.
Oh my God. Then they all just start burning down Walmart. They're like, fuck
My
this,
mind
fuck that.
just blew up a little bit with that. That would be so weird.
I cannot hope that happens.
I'm kind of excited about
It's
it.
just a bunch of people like, what the fuck is happening?
It sounds
It's
like
they got
That's
drums.
like Big Brother on steroids.
or like hippie Armageddon.
It's like that is like Survivor meets like some kind of what other I don't know, a lot of reality shows, but that's like a Survivor because you're out in the Amazon meets some what's a ridiculous Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Well, it's funny because it's like, we're not cool with like unconsensual empowered dynamics when it comes to sex, but we can like kidnap people from Walmart and give them jungle drugs, and that's fine. Like non-consensual.
That sounds awesome.
That's not a Me Too movement, dude. You're fine. We're trying to help you.
We're doing it. It's for your own good.
It's for your own
good.
Just be your highest self in this, okay?
We need you here. We're rooting for you. We just need.
We know what's best for you. Just listen to us. We've been doing this for a long time.
But I think the funny thing that when it comes down to this, and it gets watered down, is because there's so much shame around all of it. There's so much shame around. I mean, y'all's podcast name is the Shameless Sex Podcast, right? Yeah. So you get that, and I think that there's something to be said for like the rape culture, right? I guess rape culture is now spun into, it all kind of dovetails into Me Too. But rape culture is really interesting because there's a lot of like borderline consensual college level things happen that people regret, essentially, is what happens. But I think that they get shamed into regretting something and then pointing at somebody else, which of course you would do if you're like, if you get victimized by everybody around you, you accept victimness. And then if there's victimness, then there has to be some kind of perpetrator, right?
Yeah.
I think you see, I mean, now not that like, girls in college are targets in a lot of ways when it comes to sexual assault, but I think there's a lot of times when it's just like, that was kind of, I kind of regret that, and that was kind of, I wish I wouldn't have done that. It's different than getting sexually assaulted.
Totally, yeah.
Right, and I think the shame is the biggest piece there, right? Like I remember seeing a little like PSA ad type graphic thing from a college, and it was like this sleazy guy at a bar, and it said like, don't drink drinks that you didn't, whatever, like drinks that you've left sitting somewhere, or somebody random gives you something like basically tips on how to not get date raped. It's like, this guy wants to ruin your life. And I was like, so you're just basically saying like, if someone rapes you,
your life is ruined.
then your life, you're conditioning young girls to believe that if something happens,
is over.
which is by them just living their life, and really is just the fucking luck of the draw thing. Like it's just the wrong place, wrong time. Has nothing to do with you being a bad person. You're not wrong. You're not broken. But we're going to tell you that if it happened to scare you out of putting yourself in those situations, which you're going to get into because you're a fucking human being. And then it's like, oh no, now you're broken. And now you have this sexual trauma forever.
That's what they tell you about STDs. That's what they tell you about so many things. Like once, I mean, literally, like you're broken.
Yeah.
You're totally fucked as soon as these things happen to you.
This thing in junior high fucking tripped me out now that I look back on it because I'd forgotten about it. And you guys, I'm sure you've heard this, like the gum analogy. Have you heard that before? When it comes to women?
No.
Like it's like when you get gum stuck on the bottom of your shoe, like every step it like picks up more shit, and that's like every partner.
Oh.
Like so the more we were taught in junior high that the more partners a girl had,
the more stuff.
the more dirty she was.
A female.
Yeah. Or I think it leaned female. I think it was like everybody, but it was basically
You grew up in
like
Texas, though.
I grew up in Texas, man.
Texas.
But that's like the conditioning that we had.
Totally.
Right. So which plays nicely with the like Madonna horror complex.
Oh, it works real well.
Right. Like I remember on the podcast with friend Ali Waddell were talking about this, and she was talking about how common it is for a guy to be jealous about how many partners a girl's had before him. And I was like, I think that's the only time I've said that's retarded on my podcast. That's full on retarded.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
I mean, do you ask people that you're sleeping with how many partners they've
Numbers?
had? Numbers?
No.
Me neither.
No.
It's not
I mean,
important to me.
I'll have a
I'm
conversation about it, but it's more from the place of like, hey, let me tell me something that most people will judge you for, and I won't judge you for it because I don't give a shit.
Right.
Like, I'm here for you now. Like, what do you like?
Well,
it's irrelevant. I'm like, oh, you've had a lot of partners. You've had 1,000 partners. You must be really good.
1,000? That's a lot.
I mean, I'm giving you a vast example. I don't know.
Not like I'm not judging you. It's just a fucking. That's impressive.
I've never asked my
Her
partner.
partner's 50 years old, so maybe.
I mean, I've had 14 partners. That's it. I'm 35, and I know that because I've counted and I made a list just in case.
I have a list on my phone.
Yeah,
33. Actually, your current partner was
your 33rd.
my 33rd partner.
And I
on my 33rd birthday.
Before we were ever, because you were like, I'm at 32. I was like, dude, you gotta go.
You gotta sleep with him.
I'm like, you gotta go fuck, because I didn't even know him then. Like,
Yeah.
And he was. I remember encouraging you the night before your birthday.
Yeah, well, I banged him.
There you go.
Twice.
33.
Twice? Same night?
No. The other one was like a month later. And then I got back together with my ex-partner, and then she got together with this guy. And
there was that was never planned. None of it was planned. She was like, you should bang it out with Bobby. He'll help you with your daddy issues. I was like, oh, damn it.
Oh, shit.
So it's clear, based on this conversation, that you guys there's not a lot of shame around sexuality with you guys.
No, not at all.
So what I want to hear, and you guys you'll still lead workshops, work with people one-on-one or in couples? Is that?
Yes.
Give me the rundown of what you guys do.
So we have the Shameless Sex Podcast, which we started in June of last year. So it's only been around
2017. Yeah. Less than a year now.
Less than a year.
Yeah.
It started. You guys launched a month after me.
Yeah, you're May.
Age.
Yeah.
May,
we were like, were we the last weekend of May?
Last week of May.
Yeah. It was like
last Tuesday of May.
Memorial Day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we were around the same time.
Yeah.
It was a passion project, but before that, April and I have been working in the sex toy industry. I work for a company called Uberlube, and I am their educator, and she works for Hot Octopus, which is a super awesome high-end male masturbation, a vibrating male masturbation sleep company that is based out of the UK. And we both got our start in the sex industry at the same time. I opened up a sex shop in Santa Cruz called Pure Pleasure and 10 years ago, and she was one of my best friends at the time, and I saw her work ethic because she's a fucking cutthroat worker.
Savage.
And she
Full
never
savage.
worked in the sex industry, and I was like, you're going to be our manager. And
I didn't even have
what?
a vibrator.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I worked for Budweiser for a little bit, doing like marketing and.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to leave that, and you're going to come.
Yeah, I was like, it was such a
massage.
Oh my god, it was like the most misogynistic environment I've ever been in.
And Budweiser?
The particular distributor I worked with, but they were Anheuser-Busch entity, and it was really hard. It was the good old boys.
Yeah, the good old boys.
So I was like, this is not where I belong.
So we stole her.
Amy was like, you should
sell
come work
dildos.
for this. And I was like, I don't even have vibrators. She's like, I think you're going to be good at this.
And she was
because I was very open about sexuality, and I had
open in general.
I was open in general, and I love talking to humans and working at this store, which retail is great, but for me, it definitely was. I was ready for the next level because retail, like talking to the end consumer, is awesome. But you become this total psychological.
People think
like,
you're their
therapist.
Yeah, they're like, we're just trying to sell you a sex toy here. Like, but can you tell me about? Can you answer all my
They're
problems?
like, I'm 60. I've never had an orgasm. I was like, oh my.
Here's a vibrator.
Yeah. I'm like, well, here. Hopefully this helps.
Which is awesome and rewarding to sell. Like, I remember this woman that was 80 years old. She'd been married for like 60 years. Her husband died, and she had still never had an orgasm. I sold her first vibrator. I was like, fuck yes, I did that. Like, I mean, and I didn't really do anything. I just sold her, but like, thank God this woman came in and finally is going to get an orgasm before she dies, and she stayed married without ever experiencing this like euphoric connection to divinity, or however you define it. Yeah.
Well, because creating a safe place, it's a sex shop is
whatever you want.
It's like a safe place for people to go and be open, which is where Shameless Sex basically spawned out of that. Like that entire, I don't know, the experience of working in a sex shop. And then our friends, both of us have always been, and you actually have a degree in Amy in human sexuality, and she does more work with somatic, like you do somatic and relationship coaching
clients privately.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and for me, I just am well rehearsed in like relationships and having neutral advice most of the time about, life and things.
And
just
a
being
business
objective about what's going on.
I try.
Right?
I really
being
try.
a nice third party.
Coming from my higher self, I'm always like, okay, if you're living in scarcity or you're doing something out of fear, that's probably not the right way to approach it. So I think from that, Shameless Sex just spawned out of our ability to sort of collaborate and be these women that could be inspiring and be empowered in an empowered way of life. I think we try. It's always a work in progress. So
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in the work with women that you or work with people that you do, where do you see shame manifest itself the most often? Like, what are some of the areas where that through sexuality that it gets brought up, or that are some of the common areas where that is limiting? Like limiting someone's experience.
So a lot of women have shame around desire, especially in long-term relationships or marriages.
Not enough. They feel like it's not enough desire.
They don't have enough desire.
They don't possess enough desire.
They don't want to have sex as much as their husband. This is in straight relationships for the most part too, what we're speaking to. But there's a lot of shame. What's wrong with me? I must be broken. It must be I had a baby or the birth control or whatever. I love my partner and I'm attracted to them, but I don't want to have sex with them as much as I used to. And there's something wrong with me. And there's shame around it. They don't want to talk about it to their friends because they feel like they're broken. And so we talk about this all the time, different ways to work with that because, it's our largest sex organ is our brain. It's not our genitals. And you're familiar with like Sex at Dawn, or have you heard of Esther Perel's work with mating in captivity?
Our fans are like Esther Perel.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with
boss.
her.
I love her.
Sexually attracted to her.
She's beautiful.
When she speaks,
and she speaks like 9 languages fluently. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah, the accent. I'm like,
she's an alien.
That's the oldest woman that I've ever been sexually attracted to.
Oh my God.
I'm not even attracted to women, and I kind of want to fuck her.
Oh my God. She's just gorgeous. And
she's amazing.
I've got to get her on this show, but it's like I hope she hears.
That's one of our goals for Shameless Sex too. Esther, we want you on all of our shows.
I'll speak to you en français.
And we actually might meet to ourselves and have sex with you to work our way up.
Yeah, right.
Because we're that obsessed with you.
She was like, I could be me too'd by Esther Perel for sure.
Oh my gosh, she's so amazing. But her work is so important, and so
she is such a dynamic, fierce therapist. Like she has so many experiences in working with people. I don't know. In general, if your listeners haven't heard of her, or you have, like she had just came out with that newer series,
the State of Affairs.
The State of Affairs is the
great.
book.
And then she has the podcast. Where should we begin?
An Audible series.
Where should we begin? Yeah.
Where should we? And there's 2 seasons, and it's really great. I'm actually through season 1 right now. I'm starting the 2nd season. It's really great.
I need to, they have them on iTunes too now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, but they started on Audible, and that's crazy because that's people volunteering to have their lives like put out there.
Right.
Like real life couples.
They're still anonymous. I mean,
they're anonymous.
I'm pretty sure she charges like $1,000 a session or something. So I would go if I had some couples relationship issues. I would gladly go there to get free therapy from her because that is gold right there.
You can still do it too.
I just started a podcast and started putting it out there for everybody to hear.
I know. You all get to hear our relationship issues now.
So bring it back to what we're talking about.
So in terms of the work that she's done and what she talks about, and so we're humans. We get in partnership or partnerships. We like newness. We're very attracted to newness. It's new and exciting and spicy. But we habituate because that's what we do. We get used to something. And that's a good thing because then we feel safe. We can feel at home. We can feel at ease. We're not always at edge. But when we do that, desire leaves, right? When we get really safe and comfortable, desire is not as easily obtainable because the formula that she uses and a lot of people use in the sex industry, or not sex industry, but the sex therapy world would be that attraction plus obstacle equals desire. But once we habituate and we feel safe and we're in this like committed partnership, then all of a sudden obstacles not there. Now what April always says, and she's quoting Esther Perel, is obstacles actually kind of always there because you never fully have someone. You think you do. Even if you got a ring on it, you don't fully have them. They could leave at any time. Like you don't own them.
You don't ever own anyone.
So maybe if you remind yourself of that every day we're choosing to be together.
Yeah.
That we can change our minds and choose not to be together.
And you're not bound to that person. A ring doesn't bind you to that person.
Doesn't do shit. We think it makes us feel so safe.
It's a symbol. And that's all it is. And people get really caught up in like the labeling of, now I'm married to this person. You don't own them. They're never yours.
Well, isn't it great how there's a simple shift in perspective to like, okay, I'm in this thing versus like I choose to be with this person. It's the same fucking day. The day looks exactly the same. Like, but you're the only thing that changes is how you conduct yourself in your life. How you show up for your life can change the complete perspective in your dynamic.
Being mindful.
Yeah, and it's just by changing the way you look at it.
Yeah,
just change your perspective a little bit.
Well, some people think
and that's
like
huge.
The ring and the wedding certificate. I mean, when you look deep down into it, like it's still a choice, and the only thing keeping you safe is that they're a little maybe more trapped. Like it's harder to leave now.
The barrier to exit is huge.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's time consuming. Yeah. You know, April got a divorce. She knows what that feels like.
Honestly,
yours was easy compared to everyone else's.
If you know anything about, sex at dawn, like that totally. Granted, I am a monogamous by nature, but marriage. Since I'm not a religious person, I value people that love the tradition of marriage. I'm like, okay, great. That's good for you. However,
it comes out of ownership.
And it's property, women, basically women being property as well. It's not necessarily.
Or children. Let's procreate to make children out of little slave children.
I have a problem with that.
Well, that's the thing. But that's what I want to jump in here and say that, like, that served us as a species at a time in history.
Not in 2000.
Not 2018, son.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. And it's like that's the shift that I make. And it's funny, I actually got called out for this last night with a girl I'm seeing, and she's, I'm in this like on it Aubrey Marcus like very open relationship forward community, and she was asking me about marriage, and she was like, I think that a lot of people in their life get peer pressured into getting married, and I think that you actually want that, and you're getting peer pressured into not wanting it.
You get the opposite.
Like, shit.
No, but I've actually gone that direction where I was like, I think I am. I read Sex at Dawn, read Mating in Captivity, and went that direction where it's like, I just want a different perspective on relationships. So my first thing to do, coming from such a conservative world, was like, let me see, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum and see what that's like.
Yeah.
Let me just explore that, and just explore it, at least mentally, emotionally.
Well, good. It'll give you a good perspective.
Exactly. It gives you some context, and then you come back to a place like, okay, cool. I would like to have a badass partnership that's really all-encompassing in a way, but there's like understanding that we're fucking human beings.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me.
It's all about, and I think this is so important, and we all, I think, harness this well, like at least from what I know about you, Connor, and of course how well I know you, but you, no matter what you're doing with a partner, marriage isn't going to solve any of the issues. Children are definitely not going to solve this. Moving in together is not going to solve the issues.
If you want to make
it's only
things more
going
difficult.
to amplify them. It's just going to prolong those real problems. And the only thing that you can do is find happiness within yourself. And I struggle with this as being a secure human in general. I like to think of myself as secure. I have my insecurities that come out from time to time with various ways, but I still have to check myself and be like, whoa. I'm not finding happiness in this person. They can help amplify my life and bring out.
They're not making you happy.
But they can't make me happy. I need to find that within myself. So I check myself on a regular, because you can fall into that trap so easily. And it's important to check yourself.
Yeah, and you're also, like, again, society as a whole, if you look at the direction it leans, is you complete me. Right, that whole story.
I'm
like
not whole, but I need you to be whole.
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire, yeah.
Seinfeld. I thought Springer for a second.
I know.
It's probably been said on both, actually.
Damn it, it's dramatic.
No, but we had that mentality. Like we're taught that the same way that we're taught, like,
a
girl who's had sex. A lot of people is like gum on the bottom of a shoe. It's the same. It's like we get taught these things, and we're not old enough to really to question that when you're 8 or 10, or when you start hearing that. It's like, oh, well, that's cool. That's what love is. Yeah. It's like, is it though? Because you there's a hole inside of you probably from something in your life where nothing's gonna fill it besides you. Things can like kind of disguise themselves to fit that, but you got to fill it yourself and be able to pour back into yourself. And I actually had a similar conversation. It's like, I would like for a person to be with a person that really does get me fired up to be a better version of myself, but not because they don't think that I'm enough.
Yeah.
I think that those things get mixed up, where it's like, no, they love it. They love what you are, so be more of it. Be awesome. Be more you. Versus, you're not enough to be with this person. And a lot of people will put themselves in those situations to like try and write something or prove it to themselves or prove it to their, daddy issues,
it's
mommy
old,
issues,
it's
whatever.
old trauma. Yeah, it's old trauma they're trying to heal.
But not enough, especially as a lot of people go through.
People keep choosing a familiar situation that it's very familiar to their childhood wounding with mom, dad, or someone that hurt them or traumatized them or raped them or whatever. And it's not their conscious adult mind that's choosing it, by the way. It's like the hurt inner child that's like way beneath their control that chooses these familiar situations. And so that's why people are like, why do I keep dating assholes? Or like, why do I keep dating women that keep like stomping all over me? Whatever that is, you're cheating on me. And there's like old wounding, and this isn't hippie shit. This is just literally like old familiar situations that your system is trying to work out, and that feels like home. It's trauma, and it feels safe. And so they keep choosing that, and they really don't have an option until they start to work on it with therapists or having experiential, actual experiences that remind them otherwise, that they are worthy and they are whole, and that they don't need that other person to fill the void. But if someone has a lot of trauma, you can't, like, we're all saying like, just choose yourself first. They can't do it. They can't do it.
It took me a divorce.
You're two in the
therapy,
middle.
and therapy
and
support.
wanting to fucking die, like suicide, where I'm like, I'm not good enough. I can't believe I fucked this up.
I can't live without this person.
And I was like, whoa. And it took rock bottom for me to see the light. Like I had the darkness to see the stars, because I was like, fuck, like what is happening to my life right now? And then I realized, like, I am the person that's in charge of my life. I create my story. I create my own happiness. Like, what brings me joy? Then I started living in those moments and doing things.
And
that
you had
made
a therapist
me
at the
happy.
same time.
I did, and I did have someone to talk to that was neutral and that supported me and gave me proper tools. And it wasn't, and I'm a general optimist, just like you.
You're a super optimist.
I'm like super happy. So for me to be that dark was rarity in my 35 years on the planet. So it was like, but I cracked open, and it really did bring me to another level of my life, and I value those moments.
It's funny how you can handle situations like that where you're so beat down. It's like you have to then choose what you really value about yourself, and like rebuild those things. It's like you don't have enough to do all the things. Yeah, it's like, man, I got to really figure out what the fuck I care about when it comes to me, and then bring that to the world. And it's so liberating, but sometimes you just gotta go through the shit to get there.
You have to.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff like people go through. Granted, like we were talking about, when people get raped or they have these really traumatic experiences and they think they're broken, and you're like, no, these things are hard. You can be a survivor. You don't have to be a victim.
Yeah.
And you can inspire other people with your story. And so I think that, like, it's heavy stuff, but it's fucking real.
And so I want to say, for victimhood, I think victimhood can be very toxic, and sometimes when people experience trauma, they need to be a victim for a little bit, just for a little bit. You need to be like,
for sure.
It's okay to go into the why me, poor me, like fuck the world. The world hurt me for a little while, just a little while, because that's true. Like, fuck the world for hurting you. How dare they? How dare that whomever did that to you, and you can't get stuck in it. And so, like, I think victimhood serves a very short time and place, but so many people are getting stuck in it and just living an entire existence in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, even though traumatic relationships, right? It's like there's a period of fuck you after that. There's a period of like, oh wow, I realized how shitty you were. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool, we're fine now. But it's like that's not. That's the end of the day. It's like yeah, hey, you know what? I'm pretty woke, but at the end of the day, I'm a fucking human, and I'm kind of pissed off because you were an asshole.
Fuck you, motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh really? You want to be friends now? Like, fuck off.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes the breakup to actually realize too.
Oh no, you need space.
The time you're like, no, I need that. Why? Don't leave me.
This quote from Stealing Fire by Jamie Whelan and Stephen Kotler is, you can't read the label when you're inside the bottle.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You just can't.
No clue.
Love that. It's like you're too close to it. You're too close to the project. So
and then when you're out of it, you're like, well, shit, what was I doing?
Like, who the fuck was that guy? What the hell? Yeah.
Why didn't anyone tell me? Like, they did. You just didn't listen.
Yeah, they told you all the fucking time. Like, literally, like, it was a common thing. It's like, no one surprised, motherfucker.
But then you see those relationships of, especially friends, that go through the cycle 1, 2, 3, 4 times of breaking up and getting back together with someone that you obviously knows, like, it's probably not going to work out for you, but you have to be supportive. Someone's like, well, you know what? Go through your process and do what's good for you. But I'm like, damn, can't read the label when you're stuck inside a fucking bottle is a great analogy.
Yeah, the genie can't rub his own lamp. You know what I'm saying?
Like, seriously.
That is a skill.
Take a step out.
Okay, I think at the end of this fucking hour-long rant we've been on already, like I think that we're all clear on the fact that people bring shit into romantic partnerships, whether that be casual or fucking 30 years down in a marriage, right? So, what's the most impactful way to give everybody something to take away, to really create a shame-free environment in sex as best you can, knowing that that's not going to be 100% possible from the jump, but like what intention you take in, like what kind of actions can you take to create a really positive environment for sexual exploration?
So I have a couple of things, and then I'll throw it on over to you, Chip. Do you mind if I go first?
No, please.
Okay,
I love when you go
like
first.
I'm going first. Thanks.
I'm the stink. You're the pink.
She's the chip, and I'm the dip. Okay, so I just want to say a couple of things. Okay, number one, everything is normal and everyone is normal. There's no not normal. Number two, our philosophy, and this is the philosophy of a lot of sex positive institutions, would be that all consensual sex is good sex. So as long as it's consensual, it's good, it's great, it's wonderful, no matter what you're into. And I think that with the shame piece is that everyone has different interests, and as long as it's consensual and respectful of other people's interests, then it's all good, and we are not entitled to shaming them. And just because it's different from us, and maybe we don't understand it, maybe we're like, I do not understand why you like having sex with watermelons, that's so fucking weird. I don't get it. Or like, why you like to masturbate with the grass, and but okay.
You ever feel like fucking plants?
These things aren't normal. I mean, I
know.
People are not normal thing
so many
I hear.
different things.
Everything is normal, and I don't have this rate. I'm just making some weird analogy. I don't even know if that exists, but
it does. I'm sure
it does.
You can probably find a website for it right now.
Everything does. And what I'm saying is that just because someone has an interest that you're not into doesn't mean that it's not normal. It's okay. It's healthy as long as it's consensual, right? The grass, whatever. We don't know if the grass is down with it, but like other humans aren't being harmed. Other animals that can't consent aren't being harmed. Things like that. And so that's the piece, is to understand that we're all so dynamic and so diverse. I mean, we show up with our own stories and our own experiences and our own trauma and our own things that we can't even explain, that don't even come from experience. We're like, I don't know why I'm into this shit. I have no clue. But as long as it's consensual and respectful, then it's okay. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be with that person, right? If someone's really into fucking the grass and they also want to be in a relationship with you and it just weirds you the fuck out, you don't have to be in a relationship with them, but you also don't have to shame them. You don't have to make them feel like a terrible human being. Come from your
highest self.
Yeah.
There's 7.6 billion people in the world. I'm sure you'll find someone else that will suit your needs.
And I'm sure if you like to fuck grass, and you can find somebody else who wants to fuck.
Yeah, go find the other grass fucker. Someone's another grass fucker out there, or someone's just really open.
Go get them grass fuckers. If I saw somebody fucking some grass, I would encourage them. But you keep doing you.
Get that grass.
You get that grass. I bet that grass is enjoying.
Always find your people. The internet's bringing people closer together.
But talking about plants, wasn't Harvey Weinstein's his name?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he was jerking off on trees. I don't think those trees consented to that.
Oh, God. Well, a lot of things that consent to that guy.
But yeah.
It started with trees, and then it was all downhill.
The bark had to hurt, though. I wonder if he was, rubbing up against the bark. Probably not.
I love the person that comes in there and, waters the trees. Like, God damn it, dude, quit coming on my trees.
Yeah, there's some sticky, weird stuff. I would just add to that and say, quickly, that I think finding someone that you can feel safe with sharing some of your vulnerabilities is really important to release some of the shame. And we've talked a lot about that in our podcast, because those are the weights that bear you down a lot in life. And you don't have to be explicit about everything that you felt, but I think being vulnerable is there's so much power in that, even though it's a sign of weakness to some people. But being totally vulnerable and open can be so liberating and actually transcend you into living in living with things that you've experienced, but living with them with a deeper understanding of yourself, and also finding that safe person, whether it's a therapist or a friend or a parent or whoever. I mean, there's so much in just exposing yourself and being raw and real. That's what fucking humans are made of. That's what makes us awesome. We have this tissue and chemicals that are reacting that allow us to communicate in these ways that
we create fancy stories.
And we create fancy stories.
Animals with fancy stories.
Yeah, it's we're very interesting creatures, and I think we are animals, but it's cool that we can share. And so taking a moment to be raw is going to help you release some of the shame.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah, I like that. And what April and I always talk about on the Shameless Sex Podcast is you know, we're just well practiced in this stuff. Like we weren't born
and
really,
we're constantly practicing.
We're practicing and
all
we're
the
like
time.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're always educating ourselves and practicing, and so all this is a practice. So if it sounds like, you know, talking about your vulnerability or the things that are hard, you know, like, oh, last night I had sex with my partner and I couldn't get hard, and this is a regular thing and that's really embarrassing, so I don't want to talk to people about it. You know, heavy conversations like that we're taught, like, you can't tell people because they'll think you're weak. You know, for April and I, we're very open about these kind of things because we're well practiced and we have experience in it. When we weren't raised to be that way necessarily, we've just exercised it a lot. And so now it's easy for us. So the more you practice talking to safe outlets where they'll still love you even when you're in your weakness, and they won't even look at you as weak. They're like, fuck yeah, you're human. I still love you. And yeah, that's hard.
But we've also had breakthroughs after we lived our truth, if you will. So having those moments of
knowing you're still loved.
Yeah,
when you're in that.
Because I lived the life of like, I'm not going to be vulnerable. That means I'm weak. And that didn't fucking serve me at all. I lived in like this oppressed bubble for years.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying from my own perspective and seeing what you've done as well, Amy, with releasing like shame, like it has been liberating and helped us live like the lives that we wanted to live.
Quoting Brene Brown. Brene Brown, everyone go look up Brene Brown.
Badass.
Yeah, Brene Brown's
Men,
work.
Women, and Worthiness.
Yeah.
She's so badass. Like
She has
that
a lot
book
in
has
TED
helped me.
Talks. Yeah, go look
She
up
does a lot
Brene
of good
Brown.
stuff.
We gave you a lot of
She's
homework,
amazing.
listeners. Brene Brown,
So much,
Esther
there's so
Perel.
much homework. I have
Yeah.
to like find all these links.
I know.
Yeah.
Now you
Oh,
can put
wow, there you go.
We just gave you all this work.
Yeah,
Damn
and I
it.
think that's the big thing too when you're talking about this, and not being ashamed of the fact that when you try things that are new, it's going to be kind of clumsy.
Totally.
You're
Yeah.
feeling awkward and bumbly, and it's like
Always.
it's almost cute. It's like the first time you're like having sex. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of
Awkward.
and weird, and like you don't really know what the hell you're doing. And I think that you're only really exploration away from finding new things that you enjoy.
It's trial and error. We have to
There's
try.
so many things. There's so much
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't apply some of this to my life, I think.
I mean, every time
yeah.
that we talk, I say the same thing. Like, I need to start doing what we're talking about. So,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I do a lot of it. And
totally.
more. Yeah.
I try. I snap in and out of it. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking killing it. And I'm like, damn it,
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. Like
One step back.
last
It's
night, too
part
much
of it.
LSD fucks you up.
Yeah.
True.
God, dude. We were all on psychedelics last
Yeah,
night.
we
That's
were.
the funniest thing. We're like,
Hey,
man,
mind
yeah.
expansion, okay?
My mind is hella
I
expanded.
fucking love kinky.
See, you can tell from our speech. See, we're not dum-dums.
No.
Oh, sex, drugs, and sex.
Yeah,
Sex,
drugs,
drugs, and
sex.
Best show title of all time.
Brought to
Well,
you
guys-
by
This message brought to you by drugs.
and Shameless Sex.
But actually, we're not on any drugs right now.
No, we're sober.
No, we're not.
Well,
we
some
drink
fermented
wine.
grapes.
Yeah, we're ferment-
That's it.
We
Yep.
do wine and Brussels sprouts.
Oh, yeah.
And be
broccoli.
fermenting other places later.
The most
Damn it.
sexy foods
Damn.
ever.
This was fun.
You're awesome, Connor.
This
You're
was
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's
Thanks
been
for
a good time.
having us, Connor.
Yeah, where can everybody find you? I mean, obviously, this is Shameless Sex Podcast on iTunes.
Yep,
Yes.
it's on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and you can download it on our
YouTube.
website, YouTube. We
Yeah,
are
our
doing on 420. Actually, we're doing our first ever YouTube live
Oh yeah.
What?
because we get so many sex questions. We
We
get
have so many sex
literally
questions to answer.
like a
We get
lot.
like 3 a day,
At
and
least,
we love
yeah.
them.
We love them, and we read them all. But it's just like it's impossible. For us
And
to
right
address them
now,
all.
our goal is to answer all of them. So, like, at some point, we're not going to be able to. But right
Well,
now, we
yeah.
are still doing that. So, if you want to email us and ask a sex question, you email shamelesssexpodcast at gmail.com.
yeah.
Our website is shamelesssex.com. I almost said at shamelesssex.com. And you can ask questions on there.
YouTube Live, just tune in. It's on 420 at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah. Pacific Standard.
Central. We're on Central Time right now in Texas.
People are all over the place, man. Come
Yeah. So
4 p.m.
it's 4 p.m.
Pacific
Pacific
Standard
Standard Time. So if you're in New York, that's like 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
And do
We'll
the
figure it
math,
out.
please. It's
The-
recorded, so you can listen whenever you want.
And the way to access it, you would go to our website at shamelesssex.com, and there'll be a link on our homepage, or you can go to Pure Pleasures YouTube. So look up Pure Pleasure Shop on YouTube, and it will be on there too. We'll be answering sex questions, and if we have time, if you go in a chat box there, we can answer them live too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're putting together workshops. You know, I teach workshops. I'm teaching one here in Austin on Tuesday, but this probably won't come out before
We'll be
then.
at the Shameless. I keep calling it Shameless
She
Sex.
Expo.
The
Yeah.
She Expo, the Sexual Health Expo in Brooklyn in September of 2018.
We're all over the place.
You guys
We're
are
all
all over
over.
the place.
We
You guys
are.
you guys are balls deep.
We be
in the
traveling.
sex
We
business.
are
Yeah.
constantly slanging the sex toys and
Yeah.
Drinking the
knowledge.
wines, like
Drinking the
sex
wine.
toys.
And if you see us, come drink a glass of wine with us. We love hanging out.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, this has been fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank
you all so
you,
much.
Connor. Thank you.
Later on.
Bye-bye.
That is our show, you sexy motherfuckers. I hope that you enjoyed that. That was such a fun conversation. Huge fan of Amy and April and what they're doing, and really grateful to have had them on the show. If you like this show, go head over to Shameless Sex on iTunes, hit a subscribe, give these girls a review, and of course, if you haven't left a review on the Realness, go ahead and get over to iTunes and make that happen too. Give us 5 stars, leave some kind words. It's so appreciated. It helps a ton. I mean, whenever the girls looked up the podcast, they were actually impressed with the number of reviews, and they had read some of them. And that is exactly what happens when we have badass guests just like this. They look at the reviews and they say, what's this motherfucker all about? What is the Realness about? And your reviews share that information. So be sure to do that if you have the time. I'm super grateful for that. And if you want to get involved in conversations like this, go over to Facebook, search the Realness community, request access, and I will let you into a group of people that are really just driven to authentically express themselves. It's a place where you can come share. I do Facebook Lives in there every week. It's judgment free. The only rule is just don't be a dick and have a good time. It's a place to share what you're reading, what you're learning, what you're going through. I absolutely love it. The Q&As with some of the podcast guests have just been so rewarding, and I'm incredibly grateful for that community of people just to bounce things off of, and it's really helped a ton with the growth of this podcast, and I can't speak highly enough about the community. So head to Facebook, the Realness community, request access. It is free for now, depending on when you listen to this, but that will not always be the case. So get in while you can and get that content for free. And of course, if you want to work with me one-on-one or in a small group, what up? New small groups just launched last month. 4 weeks of small group lifestyle design. That just sounds badass. Creating a space for you to share and be yourself, judgment-free, and create some intentions as to how to live the fuck out of life. So many things. Head over to gettherealness.com, click the lifestyle design tab, answer a few questions, and you'll get a free little 20-minute chat with me to see what we can do to get you on the right track and living fully. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. I hope that your sex life is awesome and your days are full of giggles and sunshine and rainbows and badassery. Have an awesome week, guys. Peace.